The bigger the game, the more mechanics and features it has. But unfortunately for us, sometimes a game is so packed with content that it actually forgets to explain some of it. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 incredibly useful mechanics video games never bothered to explain. Number 10. You can speed mine resources by aiming while extracting. Starfield. Whether you're trying to build a settlement or craft new gear for yourself in Starfield, you're going to have to gather resources at one point or another. Mining rocks with your cutter tool isn't something you can really avoid, unless you're okay with going bankrupt purchasing everything from merchants. And unfortunately, the process can be pretty dull, as extracting ore takes way longer than it needs to. Thankfully, there is a little feature that remedies this fact, but you have to figure it out for yourself, because the game never mentions it to you. Unbeknownst to most Starfield players, the cutter is secretly equipped with a speed mining feature that allows it to extract pretty much any mineral and ore in seconds. To activate the feature, all you have to do is hold down the aim button while gathering materials. It's pretty simple, and yet most players never think to do it and end up wasting entire minutes on a boring task that can be done in seconds. Number 9. Hacking symbols can restore your lives. Fallout 4. A big part of how much loot you can find in Fallout 4 is dependent on how good you are at hacking and lockpicking. The hacking minigame is definitely the more annoying of the two though, as you have to pick the correct phrase out of dozens of potential options, and you only get 4 attempts to guess. Or so the game wants you to believe. None of the prompts or tutorials ever bother to explain this, but the various symbols scattered on the hacking screen alongside the code phrases aren't there to just make the window appear like a confusing waterfall of code in a cheesy hacker movie. In fact, some of them also provide you with extra lives and the ability to remove fake phrases. To get these hidden benefits, you have to find brackets that enclose bits of code, and clicking the brackets will activate their corresponding ability and make hacking a lot faster and a lot easier. Number 8. Pickpocketing is easier with a friend. Baldur's Gate 3. Pickpocketing might be some of the worst explained mechanics in Baldur's Gate 3, with next to no tutorials explaining how it really works. Which is an absolute shame, because stealthing the things that you need instead of buying them or killing for them is the fastest way to get insanely powerful. Well, if you know what to avoid. Now, the basics of pickpocketing are pretty obvious. You activate it by going into stealth, and then you have a different chance of stealing items depending on their worth and your own sleight of hand skills. The problem is that a lot of the times, even when you successfully steal something, the NPC you just robbed will instantly home in on you and then accuse you of stealing, making you fail anyway. And this is because the NPCs secretly have a search radius, and when you steal, they'll quickly start looking for you within that zone. If the pickpocket isn't inside the radius, they will instead target a different player character to question them, at which point you can say you're innocent without any checks. Because of this, it's smart to always pickpocket with a buddy, as they'll be able to distract your victim while you make your escape. Number 7. Cut can be used to cut wild grass and avoid random fights. Pokemon. Most of your time in Pokemon is spent fighting other trainers, but traversing the map is also pretty important. To help you with getting to different places, the older games, like Fire Red, offer you special moves called HMs, which can be used outside of battle. One of the first HMs you find is Cut, which is used to remove small bushes and trees that block your path to new areas. However, the in-game description doesn't tell you the move can also be applied in more useful and game-changing ways too. If you ever hated treading through tall grass, having to battle random wild Pokemon every step of the way, it turns out that Cut can be used to remove any patch of grass, completely removing the chance of being attacked. Doing so will make it incredibly convenient to move through most areas filled with random encounters without having to buy any repels whatsoever. Not bad for a basic HM if you ask me. Number 6. Sleeping and eating is essential even in Night City. Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077 is an incredibly dense and detailed game, yet it also manages to explain most of its mechanics to you with the same detail. Still, the title has quite a few secrets as well, one of which is the fact that spending your time at V's apartment does more than just provide immersion. Whenever you grab food and drinks from containers or your enemies' corpses, they don't seem to do much aside from providing short and small buffs to your stamina. However, although their description doesn't mention it, regularly consuming food items will secretly grant you an additional health bonus for keeping V well fed. Not only that, if you frequent V's home after completing missions, you can gain additional bonuses by taking a shower and going to bed. Showering allows you to regenerate health in combat, and sleeping gives you a 10% XP boost, making leveling up that bit easier. For this reason, it's definitely a good idea to treat your V like a sim and make sure their needs are taken care of. Number 5. You can bring bad food to Moza for an upgrade. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Nobody likes to waste food, especially in a game like Tears of the Kingdom, where every resource you use is perishable and every ingredient is precious. In fact, it can be quite hurtful when you accidentally use the incorrect food items and cook something inedible, like dubious food or rock-hard food, as failed dishes recover minimal amounts of health, and we're talking like a quarter of a heart container minimal. At this point, your only option seems to be to throw away your culinary disaster, but in reality, there is actually one hidden mechanic in the game that allows you to turn any failed dish into a masterpiece. If you speak to Moza in Rakoka Hill's well, the girl will actually take your dubious and rock-hard food and transform it into monster stew that fully refills your heart containers. The process can not only save your failed creations, but also allows you to turn random inedible objects into perfect health restoration items, since hard rock food doesn't require you to use actual food to make it. Number 4. Kissing gives health bonuses. Bully Scholarship Edition. One of the more memorable features in Bully is the ability to ask your fellow students for a kiss. The proposition is unlocked after Jimmy passes his first art lesson and works with pretty much any girl and quite a few boys. Most people remember the feature as nothing more than a fun little detail that gets more animated the more artsy Jimmy becomes, with Art 4 unlocking a full make-out animation. However, what most of these people don't know is that kissing people can actually do more than just give Jimmy a little distraction in between being a menace to his school, and that's that it also secretly makes him harder to defeat. The game doesn't really explain it to you, but kissing people gives you a temporary health bonus that increases every time Jimmy passes an art class. The prolonged makeout animations are there not only to show how Jimmy is becoming a more proficient Casanova, but also to indicate that he's getting greater bonuses as well. With Art 4, the bonus is so great, in fact, that it doubles your health, so if you're ever about to face a difficult mission, be sure to let Jimmy kiss his loved ones beforehand. Number 3. You can romance almost everyone, so pick wisely. Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma is an action RPG that is heavily focused on open world exploration and interacting with said world. Just keep in mind that some interactions are better explained than others, and so if you're not careful, you might end up with, accidentally falling in love with somebody. That's because the RPG features an affinity system that affects every single non-hostile NPC in the game. In-game descriptions do mention that affinity is raised either by giving gifts or completing quests for the affected NPCs. But what they don't really mention to you is that maxing out your affinity level with an NPC can cause them to become your beloved. Yes, the game has a secret love system in place which determines what kind of person the main antagonist, the dragon, kidnaps during the final cutscene. More importantly, however, if you successfully woo someone like a merchant or an innkeeper, your beloved status will grant an additional benefit in that your special someone will make it easier to gain access to their goods and services. If you don't want to move across the continent to buy certain things, then you best book a romantic dinner and woo your favorite merchant into moving in with you. Number 2, you can lockpick with sound. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Lockpicking might be one of the most universally hated parts of Skyrim. It completely grinds all of the game's action to a halt to force you to fiddle with a very delicate mechanism that breaks your lockpicks with the slightest wrong move. Anyone who has ever attempted to pick a master level lock knows just how painful and time consuming this minigame can be, which is why it's important to get any help you can with it. And luckily, there is one secret mechanic that can make the process an absolute walk in the park. Aside from the movement that happens when you're applying pressure close to the correct tumbler position, there is one other crucial hint that can help you get the exact location of the sweet spot without risking breaking your lockpick. That's because if you slowly move your lockpick from one side to the other so that it doesn't make any noise, the lock will eventually make a distinct click sound at the exact spot where you need to position your lockpick. Knowing this, you can instantly tell where to position yourself with perfect accuracy and ensure that you unlock any chest and door on your first try. No broken lockpicks required. Number 1, you can shoot targets for XP without entering competitions. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 shares the same leveling mechanics with its predecessor. It's basically the Elder Scrolls system in which you level up individual skills instead of your character as a whole. And while it makes for a more immersive and rewarding scaling experience, it does have one downside in that it makes leveling combat skills rather slow if, well, you're not engaging in combat. To improve your fighting skills, you have to get into a lot of fights, which either means waiting a long time for tournaments to enter, or getting into a lot of dangerous fist fights with actual enemies while you're still very squishy and very slashable. Unless, of course, if you actually cheat the system a little bit. That's because it turns out that targets used in the archery tournaments secretly provide the player with range combat experience, even if you aren't currently in that tournament. So if you want to level up your archery fast, all you have to do is grab some arrows and then fire away at the targets to be instantly rewarded with EXP. The process is a lot more efficient and a lot safer than practicing on live targets, so you best remember it. Hell, it might just save you from becoming a live target yourself.